The Great Bambino!
Oh, Black Mamba don't like that.
I know you're gonna dig this.
For the dozens
And dozens.
and dozens of our listeners, welcome back. Welcome back, guys.
It's been a while.
Back to the Beano.
Back to the Podbino. Podbino episode 3.
We should thank our sponsors, the Path Train.
Yeah, thanks. Who have graciously reinstated service after 9 weeks. Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Kobesh.
Christian.
Elmiz.
We got Maggie.
We got producer Mags graciously here at Studio A. Avenue A Studios?
Avenue A Studios.
Avenue A Studios.
It's been a while.
Been a while.
Come
yeah,
on.
I know.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm not in the game.
Still above water from Sandy.
Still
This was
above
in
water.
The evac zone.
It was in the evac zone.
Avenue A made it.
Yeah.
Made it through.
He made it out with his pants intact, no mud in sight. I love it. It's great.
And we never had a chance to do I was telling Christian this beforehand, the fantasy sleepers, so the world missed out on my BJ Mullins sleeper pick. So sorry about that to the listeners. I know you're missing out on about 40 fantasy points per night with Mullins.
I think
We'll talk about the Bobcats later,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, they'll sleep soundly through the night. It's all right. So we're gonna start off. We have not been able to. Christian actually has a surgered finger and can't type.
That's a new word.
Yeah,
Surgered.
It's a surgered finger. So we're gonna talk about your
New York Knicks.
New York Knicks.
The Bockers.
Guys, I'm just gonna let you go, pretty much here. But from the both of you, after 15 games, what do you feel? Obviously, this team is very good. They're 11-4. They're tops in the division.
Undefeated at home.
Undefeated at home.
18-1 at the Garden under Mike Woodson.
I could just let you do all the stats. It's fine.
Wow.
And I mean, obviously, they're very, very good. They're much better than everybody thought. So in the face of that, what do you feel is the most stunning development? Because let's be honest, this wasn't supposed to happen.
I think it's got to be Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah.
That's. There's no question he's been the biggest surprise, and it's such a delight to fans because first home game they chant his name. Woodson goes over to him, and I love this like wired, mic'd up thing. He goes, "Shit, you want to play some?" And he's like, "Yeah." Comes in, hits a 3, and the rest is just history. I mean,
Yeah, he's pivotal rotation player.
first big off the bench, can play post D, has a couple moves on offense still.
Alleges to stretch the D,
right.
even though he doesn't always
Right.
hit.
I mean, he doesn't even need to stretch the D on this team. Like, the Knicks have 6 players that get regular minutes that have a 3-point shooting percentage over 40%. 6 players.
And Prigione's
numbers right
heating
there.
up.
I mean,
I'm sure he's below right now.
I think the other surprising thing's got to be Jason Kidd, too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really just the floor general that everyone said he was going to be. Doesn't fill up a stat sheet and just somehow manages to keep the offense intact. Whenever, like, J.R. Smith shoots, like, 3 bad jumpers in a row, it's like the ball's always in Kidd's hands the next play.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the team is good. They're good. And you can't say that they're not good.
Yeah. Well, all the haters out there keep saying they're pretenders, but the Eastern Conference is going to have its handful with this team come April and May. Western Conference come June. I would agree with you, though. I think that the Kidd and sort of the derivative effect of Kidd being the ball movement, it's ceased to be an ISO team. It's no more ISO Joe nonsense with Woodson or JR and Melo just alternating possessions. The team is moving the ball, and they're offensively. I mean, it doesn't seem like they missed. It doesn't seem like they have changed a whole lot from the D'Antoni era. I mean, they're scoring still at almost the same clip. I think they're putting up the fourth most points in the NBA. They're definitely in the top 5 or 6, and they're a hard team to defend, and they're playing really good defense too.
Yeah, I was going to say that if you were to watch this Knicks team and you didn't know who Mike D'Antoni looked like, but you knew what his offensive philosophy was, you'd think that Mike D'Antoni was coaching this team and someone was actually like being a defensive coordinator. I mean, the Knicks are 8th overall in points allowed and 3rd in points per game.
3rd in points per game. Wow, yeah. So.
Like, I mean, this team plays defense.
Yeah, it's a two-way team.
I mean, they struggle a little bit with maybe pick and roll defense and isolation defense when they have Kidd and Novak both on the floor at the same time. But I mean, you give that up 10 times over just to see this team run on offense.
I mean, in terms of offensive rankings and offensive efficiency, points per 100 possessions, they're first in the league by far. I mean, they're extremely, extremely impressive. Like, I don't know. Are you surprised that?
Wow, first in the league.
First in the league.
Mean, that is really
number one. And it's
something to be happy about. Something to be thankful for in this post-Thanksgiving.
They haven't had a cupcake schedule either. I mean, most of their games have been on the road. They've beaten Miami. They've beaten Philly twice.
San Antonio. And their losses are pretty good. Other than the Houston loss, they lost at Memphis on the second night of a back-to-back.
And same thing with Dallas.
They lost at Brooklyn.
Night of back-to-back.
Dallas is a weird team this year. They're pretty good.
Houston was really the only loss, and I'm not even worried about that because it seemed like the team was too amped up to beat Jeremy Lin that night, especially Felton. So we go forward with this team, and this team is going to win. They're going to win the Atlantic Division.
This team plus probably their best perimeter defender in Shumpert will come back. We'll see what shape he's in.
When is he scheduled to come
He's
back?
coming back, I think, February. He moved his timeline back. And then Stoudemire coming back, taking Chris Copeland's role.
He's aiming for Christmas.
As the eighth man.
As the replacement Chris Copeland. Amari Stoudemire, your $20 million man, Amari Stoudemire.
Hey, you just want to win. You just want to win.
Price is irrelevant, and if you have the starting five right now is Felton and Kidd and Brewer, and then Melo and Chandler, and then the bench unit is basically Prigioni, J.R. Smith, Novak, Rashid, and then you're going to put Amari on that team to be the big on the pick and roll, feature him a lot, but you have shooters around him. Those are two really good offensive units. Stoudemire's always been a liability on D. But
last 2 years, like the acquisitions that this team has made, this front office has made, has put them on par with any other team in the league.
Yeah, I really have a ton of confidence in him. I mean, pretty much every move he's made has been the right one in hindsight.
I mean, last year you had Lin, Novak,
right,
JR,
totally off the scrap heap.
This year,
Kidd and Brewer.
Brewer
was an underrated signing too. A guy who he's only making, I think, $1.3 million or something, maybe vet minimum.
Brewer's shooting.
He's making
41% from downtown,
and he's playing great defense. And he doesn't need the ball to, he's not one of those guys who, if he's not getting the ball, his interest or his focus wanes. He plays hard all the time.
He would be what Landry Fields would be if Landry Fields knew how to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
like that's really what it is. Like Landry Fields, like.
Maybe
I'm so happy that Landry.
Yeah, I
Fields
couldn't be happier too. Seeing Landry miss and have the ball bounce off his chest last year like a million times was just
on a quick tangent. Christian, did you or did you not get into a Twitter argument with Landry Fields' girlfriend?
Oh, that was great. I mean, we found out that Landry Fields is dating like this Sports Illustrated swimsuit model.
She is.
She's not hot.
Yeah, I wouldn't say she's not hot.
So
put it that way.
You wouldn't
put a couple
say she's
YouTube
not hot.
clips together of Elaine Alden looking hot next to Landry Fields missing jump shots, and Elaine Alden tweeted at me, asking me why this was happening, and to tell me that he was working very hard this offseason.
And she wanted to know why people had to be so mean.
But I mean, hey, good for you. I hope Toronto living is nice. And good exchange rate up there.
Yeah, good exchange rate. They're one of the worst teams in the league. So
Kobesh, you also had an anonymous blog commentator recently demand photos of you after your updated ugly player power rankings.
So I updated our ugly NBA player power rankings, and somebody, I believe the quote that I got was, "I would like to see what the poster of this article looks like." He rips on all these other fellows for their looks. God don't make junk.
Right.
I believe was the last sentence.
God don't make junk.
But you know what, anonymous commenter, God does make junk because those 10 guys are really effing ugly.
Is Byron Mullins on that list?
Of course.
Oh
he's
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah.
He's a mainstay.
Yeah.
Those eyes that are floating, just kind of.
He's strange looking. He kind of looks like the monster in the Goonies.
He does look like Chunk.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Facially, at least.
Wow. I mean,
That's not fair to Byron though. He's carrying my bigs on the
MAMBINO
team. I forget
Invitational.
what my team name is.
I think you're the
Wheelchair.
The Wheelchair Pimps. Oh yeah, from the Tony Allen tweets.
I do miss the name of the Diamond Cutter. Anyway, we're digressing here. So, in terms of Stoudemire, I mean, you guys, he's coming back. His start date is Christmas now, and he's saying some pretty good things. He's talking about how he just wants to win, and he doesn't care where he plays.
Stoudemire carries history books with him on the road, dude. He is a philosophical, enlightened guy.
Was he philosophically enlightened when he punched a fire extinguisher?
That was frustration. And that's just how bad he wants to win, which is why I believe that he'll be happy to come in. He'll get his touches. He'll get his points. The starting lineup is so... Players that are into, if I were Amari and I wasn't playing at the end of the game, maybe I would be upset, but I don't think...
Well, you know what? Like when
The vibe is good on this team, I think.
when Melo came to the team, Amari's role obviously decreased, and not once did he go out to the media and say that this
Right.
isn't, what I want, what I signed up for.
Yeah.
He was always pro team, and if he's really willing to come off the bench, then I mean he's got to be the best offensive bench big man in the league.
Yeah.
Do you think that you guys are at all understating how bad this could be because you're so optimistic about this team right now?
There's absolutely no doubt that I'm being irrational about the Knicks.
Because
It could blow up.
we're talking about you talk about him accepting his role with Carmelo, right? And you talk about him not complaining about it last season, but he wasn't coming off the bench. Like there's a big whether or not we care about it, like there's a big stigma attached to people coming off the bench, especially for these guys in the NBA who obviously it's very testosterone driven. It's sports, and I'm a little concerned that he's going to be not happy with the fact that he's a $20 million bench player and that everybody's going to knock him for being a $20 million bench player. Now, of course, that might all subside because if he goes in there and kills it and the Knicks are winning 65 games, and nobody's going to say anything about a $20 million bench player. But I'm afraid about how he's going to handle it and, quite frankly, how much he's going to disrupt the second unit's defensive abilities.
Well, I mean he's human too. I mean he's probably not gonna be jumping for joy that he's gonna come off the bench. But we weren't jumping for joy. The front office wasn't jumping for joy when he couldn't play the last two playoff series, last year and the year before that.
Or when he declined, he put up 25 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks the first half season he was in New York. Then Melo came, the chemistry got screwed up, then he hurt his back in the Celtics playoff series, didn't play in that series. And he hasn't been this same player. I mean, he was getting blocked at the rim a lot last year. His numbers for points and rebounds and blocks all went down. And he just looks like a shell of himself athletically.
I mean,
So
I don't
if
think he's not the same player.
Right. So
I
if
think
he's
that's the
not-
bottom line.
He used to be a guy who was like a Blake Griffin-esque finisher. You throw the ball up, he'd catch it and slam it.
I think he was Blake Griffin before.
Nobody
Blake
could
Griffin was
stop.
Blake Griffin.
Right, nobody could. That was his game. And last year, I remember there was a game against Toronto last year where Amir Johnson blocked him, Stack got the ball back, went up again, got blocked again. It was just this guy is not who he used to be. That would not happen.
But I still think too much is being made of the whole Melo and Amari can't play together, because I think it's really more about Tyson Chandler's position on offense. I mean, Tyson Chandler is a great pick and roll guy,
Right.
And so
Number 1 in the league in field goal percentage.
where's Amari going to go? If Amari can get minutes without Chandler on the floor,
Right.
then he can actually be a pick and roll guy.
Which is why I like him on the second unit, where they're gonna every time down, it's gonna be Prague running the pick and roll with him with the floor space of the other guys. So at least he'll be featured in the offense for 20 to 25 minutes a night, not with the first group, but still he'll be getting touches, he'll be getting the points. And I think beyond just the amount that he contributes and how much he plays and whether he's a starter or not, the team now has veterans who can sort of self-regulate and police. Like with J.R. Smith this year, when Woodson told him he wasn't going to start, J.R. had some comments in the media, and Kidd and Rasheed and Kurt Thomas were like, dude, be the sixth man, help the team out in that way. You're better suited for a bench role. And I think those guys too can say, and can be as well. There's more of a leadership structure in place. Whereas when Amari was here, when they traded for Carmelo, remember that team? It was Carmelo and Amari, Landry Fields, and 8 scrubs. and Anthony, what was that guy's name? The point guard, Anthony Carter.
Oh,
And I say him after Scrubs because he was like sub Scrub. He was like even worse than Scrub. But I think that the fact that they have vets, the fact that he can be featured in a primary role, but with a different group of players, because you're right, he doesn't really fit in the front court when you have Carmelo out there and you have Chandler out there. Statistically, Carmelo's like the most efficient power forward in the game. Chandler is scoring at 70% a clip. Why are you going to put in another guy to try to, what is the point?
The three of them should never play together.
Right, and why
It's not about
ruin
Melo,
something good?
It's not about Melo and Stat. It's just the three of them.
So end of game, you anticipate Amari Stoudemire watching from the bench.
Sure. I guess
that's
depends
gonna be,
on the
that's
game.
Gonna be, we're talking about, he's human and he's going to have a hard time accepting things. Like, this is the guy who, regardless of we think of him as an elite scorer, I'm sure he thinks of himself as one of the elite scorers in the game.
Yeah.
And he's going to be watching.
This
every
is
night.
also a team that gets into just stupid foul trouble at the end of games. You just
Chandler
throw.
is always. He could get teed up or thrown out
it's
or in
just
trouble.
You have if Amari's gonna step in, maybe throw him in at the end of games, just to see if it'll work. But I don't think they should. They should just play them together as little as possible, three of them.
And if they're winning, I don't think he's gonna. Maybe he's not playing at the end of games, but if they're on pace to win 50 games, I don't think he's gonna say, "Well, I should be playing." Like if it's working, it'll be hard for him. And I think he's a smart. That's what I mean. He's a smart enough guy. He's like. He seems like he's sort of cognizant of the bigger picture and aware of things. And I think he wouldn't. I don't think he would come out and say, I deserve to be playing at the end of games when the Knicks are getting the job done and winning.
What scares me for you two guys, because you guys both care about the Knicks more than any two humans should care about the Knicks, is that if they don't keep on winning, this is not. I don't know if this is the type of team that if they don't keep on winning, this team will not just absolutely implode. Like there's a lot of teams that can just not win.
Yeah.
And be like they'll weather the storm. Like if the Spurs start not winning, like let's say the Spurs got close to 500, they'd be all right because they have this lead. I just feel like with this team, there's so many combustible elements that we're talking about Amari. We keep on saying if they're winning, if they're winning, if they're winning. If they're not winning, Amari's a $20 million guy who's coming off the bench, and he's going to be probably pretty pissed about it.
Yeah. Well, why would they not be winning? Like if there's
you're adding a major
guard
piece.
Injuries. I don't think currently as is.
Well,
the team
yeah,
is
exactly.
You have.
There's 4 38-year-olds.
Let's say Kidd and Felton are hurt, and Prigione's the only point guard, and JR has to play point guard. But then I think the situation would dictate him playing more anyway, so it wouldn't.
Okay, all right.
I think this team is pretty sound. They have they have so many vets that I don't think they would. These guys have all been around the block. They're not gonna self-combust on a 6-game losing streak. I think they're savvy enough to realize that they're playing for the long term. I also want to pick up on Christian's point about the Atlantic. The Knicks are. You said they're definitely going to win the Atlantic because the Nets worry me. The Nets are a good team, man.
They're a good team, but I don't think they're. I think the loss to Brooklyn was great for the Knicks because Brooklyn's okay, but I just don't. I don't like their front court scoring. Mm-hmm. When you pair,
don't like Brook?
Oh God, it's like blasphemy.
No, I hear you. I can see that. Because without Brook, they really don't have much front post scoring or front court scoring.
Brook is a great scorer, but you can't count on him to score 20. Yeah. He gets his 20 pretty tough ways because he's pretty movable in the post. He's got to hit a fair amount of jump shots to get there. Yeah. And I don't know. We could pair a good defensive player like Tyson Chandler on him. He's gonna have to really work.
Yeah. But he had 20 and 11 in that game against the Knicks.
The Knicks weren't ready. They weren't ready to play Brooklyn.
Yeah.
The whole city was just amped up for Brooklyn to win, and I wasn't expecting it. It's fine.
Yeah, but I do think going into the season, I wasn't sure what to make of them, but I think the D. Will and Johnson backcourt, most teams can't defend that. Those guys are both really big. Wallace at small forward, and then Reggie Evans. We were talking about Ronnie Brewer before. Evans is another guy who signed a 1-year vet minimum deal. Who's playing so well. He's probably their third most important player. He gets like 10 rebounds a game. He plays a ton of minutes for them.
I would argue even that sometimes he's their second best player.
Yeah, he kept in the Knicks game. He had like 8 offensive rebounds. The guy was all over the place. We couldn't stop him.
Yeah, and they always there's always like a big guy who gets too much money just because he's big, and you have Reggie Evans floating around with his like minimum contracts all his career. Like this guy
every
is
year
out there.
he's the number one rebounder by rebound
48.
rate or per 48 in the league, and all he does, like, he sets good picks, he rebounds, he plays hard, he's a flopper, but at least he brings you something on D where he's contributing. I think they're going to be a tough team, and I like CJ Watson too as another guy. You could put all the 1 year vet minimum contracts together, and I think it would be a pretty good team. But Watson's playing well for them. And Jerry Stackhouse, also a former Tar Heel, retired. Him and Rasheed last year were both
On the
am
same
I
team. Yeah, I
wrong?
think they were on the
they
same
were
Tar Heel team.
out of the league, and they both come back and are like major contributors on solid NBA teams. That's to me remarkable.
Brooklyn's good. But I don't think their team is like. I don't think their team has an easy time against the bad teams of the league. Mm-hmm. Like they lost to Golden State without Bogut.
Yeah. Golden State's decent though.
I don't know. I mean, like their team matches up well with a lot of good teams in the league, but I just don't feel like they will run all over bad teams.
Yeah.
And that'll hurt you in winning a division.
And they play a lot
Jerry
of ISO.
Stackhouse, by the way, 16 minutes a night in 9 games, shooting 500 from the field, averaging 7 points a game.
Yeah.
That's Jerry Stackhouse. He's 38 years old.
Yeah, but he was not in the league last year, right?
No, he played for Milwaukee, I believe.
Huh.
He's had a job actually consistently the last few seasons. He's just
been like the 12th man.
right. Yeah, he's been the 12th man
Yeah.
on a bunch of teams, a bunch of bad teams actually. He was on the Heat for a little bit in 2010, I think. And
Yeah.
but he's had jobs. I'm
Stack.
almost surprised to see Stack in the corner hitting a 3. It's been quite miraculous.
There was a funny tweet that someone wrote. At one point, there was a debate of whether Jerry Stackhouse and Allen Iverson could coexist. It made me chuckle. I think about how old that guy is.
All right, moving on.
There's another conference.
There's another
Right?
there actually is basketball outside of this fair city, believe it or not. And for the most part, it's emanating out of California right now. Some three of the better teams in the Western Conference are actually all from California.
We'll go first.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But first of all, we're going to talk about your or my Los Angeles Lakers.
I think the first thing we could talk about is first impressions of the mustache man.
Well, first of all,
The Monopoly Man himself.
I was home over Thanksgiving, and I did watch a lot of Backstage Lakers, which is like the new kind of Yes. It's on the new like Lakers Yes network type thing. And I got to say, the guy is he's super, super charismatic and really, really charming. So I do like him. I've never disliked him. Even when he was in Phoenix, I never disliked him because the Lakers weren't good when the Suns were good. And when the Lakers got good, they just dismantled the Suns. So I've liked him so far. I think a lot of things about I do see it was pretty jarring to watch the first game and to realize that this is what basketball is now when he's your coach, in that you kind of score a lot of points, but then, as a fan of the team, you're always watching you're watching for the mistakes, obviously, more than the pluses.
Threes.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would see the team score, I'd see the Lakers score, but then on the other end, the game's moving so fast that even though the other team might not be scoring at the same rapid clip, they're still scoring a lot. Mm-hmm. And so in that way, it's really jarring to watch your team give up point after point after point.
Yeah,
even
you
though
gotta
in
focus on the points per
reality,
possession
exactly.
in
Even though in
NBA.
reality the other team's not playing that well. It's just
Right.
the pace of the game is going so fast.
Yeah.
So that was really jarring to me. I've kind of gotten used to it, especially last night playing Denver, and Denver shot something like 49% from the field.
Yeah.
But the Lakers also put up 122 points.
Right.
What
So-
did Jameson take before the game? My God.
I tweeted last night that Jameson was wearing Kobe's armbands, and it was a like Mike situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Had to have. I mean,
Something was
Jameson. I
Good
mean,
Lord.
everybody.
33 points.
Everybody was just. I mean, truthfully, everybody was just wide open. Denver's rotation. Denver's defensive rotations right now are all screwed up. I don't think George Karl knows what he wants to do with this team.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because it's largely the same, except for maybe missing a Flalo is really screwing them up right now. But
I think it's. I think
when
it's
you have
their-
Iguodala there, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really know what Denver's doing. We'll get back to Denver in a little bit, but
Yeah.
they just had a bunch of open threes last night. It was, Jody Meeks and Antoine Jameson and
Jody.
Dwight Howard. were wide open last night, just drilling threes. We tied a franchise record for 17 threes last night. It's pretty
Will
incredible.
soon be broken, I would imagine.
Yeah, I
Bafo
can't.
at the
Yeah,
reins.
you know, and surprisingly, I have to say, like, there's been a couple outliers, especially like garbage Indiana game the other night where it was like 78, 76.
Yeah, that was a
something like
horrific game.
79, 77.
Stern should find that both teams for that.
Exactly.
performance.
Yeah.
that was a travesty to the fans.
So, I mean, if you look at the team, you're talking about defensive ratings. This team's only given up 102 points per 100 possessions, which is 7th in the league. They're scoring 107 points per 100 possessions, which is 8th in the league. I mean,
Speaking of the defense, though, in that Pacer game you mentioned, Dwight Howard, the Dwight Howard I know, volleyball spikes that ball into George Hill's
right?
face,
He didn't rotate fast enough, and
But-
he couldn't get up.
But is he just not? Is he doesn't look 100%. I mean, I feel like the
I don't
old
know
Dwight
if
Howard
he
takes
can't be.
one step, leaps, and
Right.
swats that into the 8th row.
I don't think it's a case of him being healthy.
Is he out of
I just
shape?
don't-
Is it
I
the
think he's
back?
out of shape. I
Yeah.
mean, truthfully,
Hey,
he's
can he
been.
ditch that headband? My God.
Yeah, I
that's
know
so
he
dumb.
really likes it. It's not
Yeah.
a good look for him. His head's already really small. It just makes it look smaller. So the problem is that he's been. It's right now we're recording this on a Saturday, December 1st, and he's been playing basketball again for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, so he's
So
still,
he's still, and
back.
this is after 6 weeks after not playing ball at all, not doing anything for 6 months.
right.
So this
'Cause he
guy's
had a
basically
surgery when,
because he
like
had surgery
March or
in
April?
April, I think.
Yeah.
and it's like it was a 6-month
So,
recovery
yeah,
period.
yeah, right.
So you're talking about a guy who's going from basically square one to trying to be in NBA shape, whereas all these other guys are, are doing summer things and
Mm-hmm.
they're playing pickup basketball and stuff. The guy was doing pickup nothing. Like,
Yeah.
he's picking up his groceries.
Pick up trade demands.
Yeah, exactly. He was doing.
I want to trade.
He was
No
playing
way. I
pickup
don't wanna
fantasy
trade.
basketball with himself.
Please trade me.
So, in terms of Dwight, I'm not really. I mean, where all this is going, obviously, is like I'm not that worried. This team's 8-8 right now,
Yeah.
and they beat up on a pretty incompetent defensive team last night, which is always kind of emboldens me a little more. If we lost to that team and we were 7-9, I probably would be a little bit more upset about it. But
Yeah.
the truth is that I think this all changed. I mean, you're missing a really key component to the team, which is Nash.
Nash, yeah.
And it's
Your 39-year-old point guard.
our
with a broken
39-year
leg.
point guard, with a broken leg.
He's
Who
key.
last night in an interview with Doris Burke, I believe, said, "Yeah, it could be a week. It could be like 2 weeks. I don't want to push it. It's really frustrating, but we'll try to see if it can get better, and hopefully we'll be back."
What is up with Nash? Has he always been this, like, does he always try to impersonate a serial killer? Or
I don't
is
know.
This like a new
I
LA
think
thing?
he's always sounded like that. But I
always thought he was, like, congenial, and then I've seen a few interviews with him, and it's like, is he trying to make someone laugh? That is this a practical joke or something?
no, I think he always talks like this. Like I've seen him.
It must be the
walk
Canadian in
around.
him.
Well, the Canadian minute didn't smoke 30 packs a day. Like I don't
Right.
know what's wrong with him.
Yeah. Strange.
I would just be worried about someone going down on the Lakers, because D'Antoni, he's running these guys into the ground already. Unless
And
it's
that's
a
the
blowout
classic
win,
MDA
right.
move.
Unless it's a blowout win, he's playing 8 guys, and
which is bigger rotation than he had in New York. His 7-man
oh
rotation.
right, the 7-man rotation with
Well, you
Jeremy Lin
you
playing
look this
47
and
minutes a game.
Yeah.
the problem isn't the minute. The problem isn't so much the rotations or it's the minute. I mean, Kobe's playing 37 minutes right now.
Yeah, Kobe's indestructible.
Dude, Meta he's had a couple games with over 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's not gonna be able to play 40 minutes
I mean,
all year.
Pow's playing 35 minutes. He's 32 years old. Antoine Jameson needs to actually step up his minutes.
Yeah.
He's been playing much better the past few games, so he'll be all right to play more minutes. But in terms of like, Steve Blake needs to come back, and he needs to be ready to play 25 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And you talk about Jody Meeks. Jody Meeks is playing 12 minutes a game. Jody
Steve
Meeks needs
Blake's
to be out
wife
there.
needs to come back
Is
and
that
play
Jody
25
Meeks?
minutes a game.
I'll tell you about that in a second.
What are Jody Meeks per minutes with D'Antoni, or since D'Antoni? Can you get like his last 10 days?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because I'd imagine he's seen a
Kings
spike
against
in
the
production.
Kings, Meeks 16 minutes, 12 minutes against the Grizzlies,
He's something like
20 minutes against the Mavericks. I don't count that because that was a blowout, and
Yeah.
D'Antoni's just gonna empty the bench.
how much did he play last night?
Last night,
Also a blowout, but
who did they play last night? Nuggets, right?
the Nugs.
17 minutes last night.
17.
I mean, that's right about where he should be. Last night's game was pretty much. I mean, I know it was a blowout and it ended in a blowout. It was closely contested. It was like a 14-point game until about the last 5 minutes. So, I think you need to. This team is gonna be. They're gonna be all right. I think the thing that's been concerning me most lately is Pau and.
Yeah,
It
why
kills
is
me to
Pau
say
such
it.
a
Like,
baby, dude?
I love Pau Gasol. I've always
I know
loved
you
Pau
do.
Gasol. He's averaging 12, 9, and 3. Obviously, those are all rounded down. But he's shooting 42% from the field. And
Yeah, he just looks totally out of it.
he looks out of it. And I did a little shot chart comparison with a couple other guys the other night. And the guy's shooting something like 60-something% in the first quarter. And then by the fourth quarter, he's shooting like 20-something%. Like, he's just not... He's not hitting those open jumpers. And in this offense with Dwight under the rack, and then with all the guys like Nash cutting in, going around the baseline, you got Kobe cutting in, you really have to look at Pau and be like, okay, well, your best skill set is around the rim, and you're not getting there. Like, you're not going to play there pretty much all game. Like, if you play with the second unit, you'll get there, but otherwise, you're not.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be settling for elbow jumpers at 18 feet. That's
What
just
about
gonna
the
be your
high
role.
post that
Well,
he
we
used to
talk
play with
about
Bynum?
Amare. You talk about Amare, just like, is he upset? I mean, Pau's game is basically changed by this offense and the
Right.
acquisition of Dwight.
And God bless him for it. He's been like able to hit open jumpers. Like,
Yeah.
but
12 points per game, and what are the numbers that you just said are not what you're paying that guy $19 million a year.
well, here's the
the
thing.
fourth best player on the
Here's the thing
team.
about Pau. Money, obviously, money is for the Lakers. Money's inconsequential. Like,
Right.
like they're gonna pay a S load of money, and that was very close. They're gonna pay an S load of money in luxury tax anyway.
Right.
So you
But
know,
the-
if you were any other team and you said your power forward was giving you 13, 9, and 3, you would say, where do I sign up?
Any
Where
team
can
in
I
the
get
league's going to sign up for 13 and 9? I don't think so, dude. Melo's
For a
putting
power
up
forward?
20. What's Melo putting up?
Okay,
Like 25
not
and 9, dude?
Sorry, I didn't know I was talking to arrogant Knicks fans now.
Come on, 13 and 9 is like middle of the pack. What's
13 and
worse
9
than 13 and 9?
Would you? I mean, if they.
What's
You know,
worse than 13
like
and
what
9?
power forward is not giving you 13 and 9? That's a starter. Like other than Ilyasova maybe.
Ilyasova
You know,
not
like
giving
David Lee
anybody
is giving
anything.
you more than 13 and 9.
David Lee is.
Am I wrong?
But that's an unfair comparison because David Lee is not.
I don't know. I think
David
he's
Lee can't
vastly
pass to anybody.
underperforming. A and
He
B.
is,
The Lakers.
I'm just saying that he's he is vastly underperforming, and the problem here is that with Nash, even with Nash, his assist numbers might go up, and I suppose his shots could go up just from the sheer confidence of getting open shots and playing with Nash. Maybe it's just a kind of a psychological thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of his role, he's going to be getting these shots in any offense, no matter who's running it. If Nash is in there, he's
Yeah.
still spotting up for 18-footers. That's going to happen. Like that's just what's happening. And it worries me that maybe it's early in the season, and maybe he's it's only been 16 games, so maybe he needs to get used to it a little bit more. But I'm kind of worried that Kobe dishing it to him on a high low from the post. Pau's still going to have to hit that 18-foot jumper no matter who's the point guard. Mm-hmm. And he's not hitting that open shot. So it kind of worries me in that he's not playing well, and that everybody knows it, and that for some reason every Laker fan wants him traded. Every Laker fan.
But doesn't that become the question at a certain point? I mean, I know money in a vacuum with the Lakers doesn't really matter because they're going to spend it anyway, and they have the luxury tax and stuff. But at a certain point, don't you have to think we can either pay Pau $19 million, or we can trade him and get 2 players that make around $19 million, or
Right.
3 players who we can plug in here for a team that isn't exceedingly deep anyway.
Would
And,
D'Antoni even
and
play
maybe
them,
fits
though?
the
I mean,
system better. What if you could trade him and get 2 shooters and an athletic wing who could give Artest a breather? Doesn't at that point, don't you think at a certain point they're going to have to weigh whether it's worth? I think they want to see what the whole team looks like together, especially with D'Antoni.
Right.
Once
And-
Nash is
and I
back,
don't-
but-
I see him call for the ball in the post, and Pau Gasol in the post is. I mean, you got to throw him the ball down there.
Right.
And D'Antoni does not have that.
Yeah, they
in
don't
his-
like
in
the
his
post.
offense. They don't like because that means the ball's stopped and like people stop moving. But like every once in a while, you just have to take advantage of a mismatch like that. The guy's 7 feet.
Yeah,
and he's playing.
He can score
like,
on most anyone in the post.
And I've seen
at least get a high
and a
percentage
great
shot.
passer out of double teams if they
Yeah.
decide to do that. I mean, just everyone. That was the problem. It's like Melo was never getting post touches when D'Antoni was coach. Oh, I'm sorry, we got back to the Knicks, but
But even Amari said, Amari was coached by D'Antoni for 9 years, and he said this summer was the first offseason that he's worked on post moves because he's never needed to work on them before.
thanks, Mike. Thanks, D'Antoni.
The coach would never, if he worked on them, he wouldn't be able to use them other than in an All-Star game. I mean, so if D'Antoni doesn't use the post, and that's Gasol's best skill, and you need shooting and you need depth, I think at a certain point in January, February, Kupchak is going to pull off a classic sneaky Kupchak move where out of nowhere
I
he
actually
deals
think
Powell
that
for
I actually
2 or 3
think
guys.
that the bench's underperformance is pretty overstated at this point. Well, having watched this team every game, more or less every game, these guys on the bench aren't bad. They really aren't.
Yeah.
Antoine Jameson, if he is not a zombie and is what he's been showing, I mean, obviously he's not going to drop 33 and 13 every night, but
And Duhan's not going to be a regular contributor.
Exactly.
Like,
but the truth is that he's still a somewhat
Chris
valuable.
Duhan's in the NBA. He's an
Still,
NBA player.
Him and D'Antoni have been on the Knicks and the Lakers as
He
like
is,
the
like-
coach PG combo.
He has managed to stay at like a skill position without any muscle definition for so
Yeah.
long. Like he's just a fat point guard.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
He is.
so this Lakers bench really isn't that bad. I think that.
But do you need
Jameson's
more
gonna
shooters?
No,
Do you need
I
better
really
defenders?
You definitely need a wing guy like to come off the bench and like play some defense.
don't. Right, and I think that, I mean, if Devin Banks would put down the bottle and stop driving while drunk, then maybe we could deal with that.
Devin.
Oh, low blow on Devin Banks.
But what if when Nash comes back, it's just Nash, Dwight all day on the pick and roll, and Kobe doing his ISO thing, and Powell is just like, there's no room for me on this team. Don't you have to trade him?
You don't have to trade him. That's the thing. It's like you don't have to trade him. Like to think that you can't win or you can't do something with one of the guys, one of the most skilled. Everybody throws around this hyperbole, like
Yeah.
the most skilled player in the NBA. Like
Yeah.
he's the most skilled. He's the most skilled big man in the NBA. Like you can use him no matter what. So
Yeah.
I think
I don't know
think you
what
wait
deal that
until
works either.
You,
I mean,
you-
if Powell's at practice and he's like attentive, he's working hard still. I mean, you don't just trade him just because he's had a bad start this season. They're like 7-7. That's 14 games.
8-8.
Yeah.
Or 8-8. I mean, you're not going to trade him just because he hasn't fit in yet. I mean, they
Right,
have
right.
they got a new coach 5 games into the season.
Yeah, I don't think anytime soon. I'm just saying I think at a certain point it may become more valuable for the Lakers to use that allocation of money on a group
That's
of
true.
players that fit the system and these because Powell is the 4th most important player in this team, right?
Yes.
Nash, Kobe, and Dwight are all more important than Powell. So maybe if you could get 2 good shooters and a defender, you think, well, we'll trade our 4th best guy and improve, players 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 because of that trade, and have a really good 8-man rotation instead of a good starting 5 with a bench that shows up every now and then. It'll be interesting to see, I think, at a certain point. And Powell, just as a professionally, we were talking about Amari and his ego and whatnot, but Powell, even though he's starting and playing big minutes, I think at a certain point is going to have to become frustrated and be like, I never get the ball in the post. I'm the last option on offense, other than Artest pulling the trigger on corner threes. He's probably even behind that. At a certain point, he's going to try. He's probably going to say, I could still be a second best player on a team or a best player on a team, and this isn't working out.
Powell is averaging 11.8 shots a game. Meta World Peace is averaging 10.5. So
Those numbers should not be close.
Jarring.
They shouldn't be close. I mean, I'm not worried about it yet, just because Nash isn't there and D'Antoni came in about 4 games ago, or 6 games ago.
Right.
So we'll see how it kind of works out. I do feel that a trade might be coming down just because the outcry from the fans and people seem to be he's still playing hard, but I can tell that he's dissatisfied with his role.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's getting paid $20 million this year and $20 million next year. I mean,
Right.
that's going to be a really
So,
difficult trade
Yeah,
to pull
so
off.
I don't feel bad for him.
No, I don't feel bad for him at all. And
Yeah.
if anything, it's not going to be a 1-for-1 trade. It's going to be a 3-teamer. I don't think Atlanta's interested in dealing Josh
What about
Smith.
Dallas? Would Dallas want to trade for Powell?
I don't know who
They've
would
been
trade
trying to
for Powell.
get. They have a bunch of those 1-year deals. Would they trade like Sean Marion? And
I mean, well, essentially, what you're doing
shooter?
is throwing away the Dallas' season. I think. Unless you think Darren Collison, Dirk Nowitzki, and Pau Gasol can take you to a championship.
Yeah, but I don't think they think Darren Collison, Dirk Nowitzki, and OJ.
Pau Gasol is
going
to be 33 years old next year, and he's going to be on a 1-year, $20 million expiring deal.
Right, but that's the thing.
And
is
he's
that
gonna completely-
Dallas has max room again this offseason. So if they look at the free agent landscape and say our options are Al Jefferson, Paul Millsap, or we can trade for Gasol and only have him for this year and next, and then we have more cap space. It probably coincides with him and Dirk coming off at the same time, so you'd have max cap room at that point. That's true. Maybe they do that trade, and then you have. I mean, Gasol and Dirk will be a handful.
Yeah,
you could
agree.
feature
That would be
Gasol
nice.
on the post and Dirk.
I just don't think that there's enough on. I don't think that there's enough on Dallas to.
Yeah,
It would be Chris Kaman.
I'm trying to think of who else.
It'd be Chris
yeah.
Kaman, Sean Marion, and
Do they have a shooter? OJ Mayo. OJ?
That's not happening.
I don't think they're dealing OJ either. I think they like OJ.
Yeah, they like him.
Jay Crowder.
So anyway, no, I'm not taking Jake.
Best contract in the league.
Chandler Parsons has the best contract in the league, I believe.
Chandler, yeah.
Chandler Parsons, 1.5 over 3.
Anyone
He must have been
drafted in
asleep
the second
signing
round
that
is-
contract, Chandler Parsons.
Second round picks are always the steals because you sign them on like a 2-year really cheap deal, and then usually it's like, oh, they're showing signs of progress, so we'll give them like a 4-year, $8 million deal or something, and then they start vastly outperforming it.
So I wanted to ask you guys, because you're both survivors of the Mike D'Antoni Knicks.
Just barely.
Just barely. So we were talking about this a little bit before the pod, but what kind of defining characteristics am I maybe not missing, or maybe missing out on, or haven't seen yet? You know, little things that he's doing on the sidelines, things like that.
The foot stomp. The come on. Walking around with his hands in his pockets.
I haven't seen the foot stomp yet.
His
because
general
he's got a replacement knee.
befuddlement with the refs. He had a great quote when they traded Jordan Hill and they said, "Why didn't you play Jordan Hill?" Jordan Hill says, "You don't like to play rookies," and MDA said, "I don't like to play bad rookies."
Oh.
And he generally, I think, that was the general critiques of D'Antoni are he doesn't care about offense, which I think is unfounded. His teams have always been league
Care about
average.
offense?
Defense. I'm sorry that he doesn't emphasize defense, but they're always on points per game basis high, but on a points per possession basis about average and better if they have better defenders. That he plays a small rotation, which I think is true. He'll play 7 or 8 guys and run people on the ground.
It's just like you have a team that is already seems to be injury prone with Nash out
And old.
Howard's not healthy. Someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Playing 40 minutes a game, like
Yeah.
I mean, Meta's not gonna be able to stand up playing 40 minutes a game. Kobe led the league in minutes last year, right?
Yeah,
think
Kobe
he
and
was- I think
Ron
he
are
was
both
third.
indestructible.
Kobe needs to play less minutes, but then again,
No, come
like,
on, he's spry 34, guys.
Yeah,
Then again,
and
this
he got
team
the
needs to
Kobe
win.
knee in Germany, the Dusseldorf knee.
The Dusseldorf knee. All right. Well, thank you for that education, fellas.
I'm trying to think of any other fun ones. He's got Dan D'Antoni on the bench, right?
He does have,
younger bro, sans mustache.
He did bring Dan, but
Yeah.
he kept everybody else. So we still got Chuck Persons,
Okay,
Darvin Ham,
Darvin,
Bernie
awesome.
Bickerstaff.
Is what's
my
his
man.
name? Who is Quinn Snyder's gone, right?
Quinn Snyder is the
He was
coach
gone
of like
last year?
CSKA Moscow. Or
Oh,
something.
is he?
He's
Just
overseas.
a slimy guy and a slimy team.
Yeah, he's disgusting.
Who are their other assistants? I'm trying to think. Oh, Bickerstaff. He kept Bickerstaff,
Kept Bickerstaff.
and he kept
Eddie Jordan.
He kept Eddie Jordan. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
He kept Eddie.
miraculously.
Wow, interesting.
Interesting team.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that bears out. But now we're gonna switch to a couple records, and I'm gonna get your quick hits on this, guys.
Quick hitters.
I'm gonna talk about the top teams in the league right now, and I'm gonna ask you if you think that these records are representative of how good these teams are. So the best team in the NBA right now, the best team in all the land, are your Memphis Grizzlies at 12-2. The Grizz are far and away
The Grizz.
are just dominating everybody right now.
Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible. I'm kind of surprised that nobody really saw this coming. I mean, I suppose some of us could have predicted this was coming, but they look like a genuine.
Where did we have
legit
them on
title
our
contender.
preseason?
I think we had them ranked
Like 3 or 4.
sixth.
They were 6.
I think it was.
we had them tough.
It was Lakers,
Tough for them because
Oklahoma.
when they lost in the first round, it's like you kind of bummed out by that going into the next season. But I mean,
Yeah.
they're definitely the best team in the league right now.
Mike Conley is super underrated for them. He
They play together too.
Yeah,
they play together.
They're a good team. They're who's their coach? Is it
Hollins.
Hollins? Yeah, Lionel Hollins.
I don't think he does anything.
Mike
but I
Conley
mean,
is shooting 50%.
I read a good article about him though. He seems like they play with a chip on their shoulder, and he's sort of the driving force behind getting them to like show up every night, take things seriously. Zebo and Gasol are still super hard to defend.
How many big men in the league have more skills than Marc Gasol?
Pau Gasol.
None. Mark's way better than Pow, dude.
Come on.
Mark has had a better season than Pow. I don't know if he's better than Pow, but
I think he is.
Actually,
He's 25 versus
I went to
32,
the Laker
dude.
game
Wrong,
the other night.
Pow's on the wrong side of the arc.
He is on the
It's
wrong
going
side of
down.
the arc. I went to the Laker game the other night, and I saw young Adria Gasol,
Really?
who is
Is that a boy or a girl?
That is a boy. Adria is 19 years old. He's a freshman at UCLA. He's been playing basketball for 2 years and walked onto the squad. If you go to UCLABruins.com and look up Adria, Adria Gasol,
Why has he been playing basketball for 2 years? Pow's been in the league
because
since like 02.
you just go Google some pictures of him. You'll figure out why he's only been playing
Is he
basketball.
fat?
No, he's just really incredibly
Is he
awkward
tall?
looking. He's 6'10". He's every inch of 6'10". I think he's still growing. And I imagine he's just as smart as his brothers, and probably that passing gene has to be genetic.
Yeah.
So
Wild.
yeah, pretty incredible.
Maybe he'll get some time now that Josh Smith left the team.
It's possible. I mean,
Team in turmoil.
he's
UCLA Bruins.
we'll get KS to write about that. Get on it, buddy.
We can have our own college hoops forum later on once we go to a game with Tommy D. Tommy Duffy.
Adria watch.
So anyway, I mean, you look at
Grizzlies, I
this-
think, are for real though. I don't see my point on Conley was that he's a super hard guy to defend because he's so fast, but he plays really under control, which I thought was a big improvement that he made. He used to be really out of control, and now it seems like he always knows where he wants to go. The ball moves really well with them, and their bench has been between. They lost OJ Mayo, and I think a lot of us worried about that, but they got. What's his name? Bayless and Wayne Ellington have been giving them production at guard off the bench. They're just a good all-around team, and they know who they are, which I think a lot of NBA teams you can't say that about. They know what they want to do every night, how they're going to win, and they just sort of impose their will on you and force you to play a slow, banging-out game. Even in the Knicks game, the Knicks
had
trouble. We had a ton of fouls against them, and then the fouls get called in a physical game like that, and then the Knicks sort of lost their cool and got even more fouls, and I think that's just the way they win. They have a great home court too.
They're the best team. They're the best team. They're bigs. When Zach Randolph gets going, it's like he's impossible to guard. I mean, he has so many moves in his post arsenal, and when you double him, I mean, you're gonna probably double off Tony Allen, but their passing rotations off a double team in the post are incredible. Like they move the ball around, and Rudy Gay is not taking 25-foot contested jumpers anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he's driving the basket, making the extra pass, and this team is so legit.
Yeah.
It's scary.
I like them, and for certain teams, matchup-wise, they're an absolute nightmare. I mean, a lot of teams they've had the Spurs number in the playoffs. They beat the Clippers last year. They are
Actually, the Clippers beat them.
Oh,
Clippers won
in
in
7
Game
games. Yeah.
Actually, I think at Staples Center, the Clippers practice facility, I couldn't remember what I saw an Instagram photo of the Clippers had a ball from Game 7 of the first round in a case, and it's like their shining
that's right.
achievement.
And then the Clippers got swept in the second round.
Yeah.
Right.
God.
But yeah, they're a tough. They're going to be a tough out. And the Clips don't have Kmart or Reggie Evans, who were getting big minutes last year in those slugfests. Blake and DeAndre couldn't handle the big boys.
Moving on to the next team, we're talking about the best team in the NBA. We'll talk about the best team last year. That was the Miami Heat, second in the league at 11-3. I mean, I don't know if there's really that much to talk about. They're as good as we thought they were going to be, I think.
I'm worried about Mike Miller. No, I'm just joking. They're good.
Well, I mean, it's great that there are other good teams in the league because then, people focus less on Miami, and all of a sudden the schedule comes up and LeBron James walks into your building and is going to drop 40, and you're not even really prepared for it as much as you were last season.
Right. I mean,
They're good.
They're yeah. No. Yeah.
The only thing
Suffice to
I'd
say.
be worried about is Dwayne Wade, his ability to stay healthy the entire season, because I mean, he just depends so much on explosion, and I don't know. There are just stretches where you watch him and you think that has he lost a little bit of a step?
I think
Just
I
a
can't
little
remember
bit?
who was saying it on TNT the other night, but basically somebody was saying that he's 31 now. Miraculous. He's only 3 years younger than Kobe. Kobe has been playing the league 7 more years than him.
Wow.
It's amazing. But Dwayne is 31, and he's averaging 18-4-4 essentially, or 18-5-5 if you want to round up. And he doesn't look great. Like he can't. Somebody was saying on TNT, like he can't really beat guys off the dribble anymore.
Yeah.
I think teams are finally starting to lay off him. You know,
Yeah.
like you give Dwayne Wade an open three, like I'll take that any day over him like just barreling.
I mean,
over
he's
you.
shooting a half a three a game. He's 0.5 threes a game. He's not really making them at all. He's only taken he's taken 6 all season.
Yeah, well, that'll only. I mean, that's I think a good transition because they should be emphasizing the different parts of LeBron's game.
I mean, LeBron is shooting 43% from three-point range. LeBron is averaging 25, 9, and 6.5 right now, 6.5 assists. He's shooting 43% from the three-point line and 53% from the field while playing 37 minutes a night and elite defense.
Yeah.
Turning over the ball 2.5 times. He's averaging a block and a steal a game.
Yeah, he's an absolute.
And only
beast.
2 fouls.
Should be another MVP.
And it's going to be another MVP. I mean, I think, and I've also been really impressed with how well Ray Allen has been playing and how spry he's looked at times. And when you give him that ball in the fourth quarter behind the arc, he's going to make that shot. And I feel even more confident on this Heat team than I did with him on the Celtics.
You know, I've been impressed too with the Heat that they've battled in a lot of games and come back to win. Even the Spurs game the other night, the Fine Gate,
Fine game.
where they
we'll get to
they
that.
were down. They have an attitude this year, and LeBron I think is the main point behind it, where they're like, we shouldn't lose any game. And even when they're down, there was one game where Spoelstra took the starters down. LeBron said, I'm staying in and battled to the finish, where they haven't been, you know, it's not like they've won every game by 20 points. They've been in a lot of close games and they've finished games off. So I think that's a step up from last year. This year they're expecting to win and they're really executing well and taking over in the fourth quarter.
I mean, they've lost at Memphis, who are the aforementioned best team in the league. They lost at the Clippers and at the Knicks.
But
yeah.
Yeah, at the
yeah,
Knicks. I'd like to know how many times they've been down in the fourth quarter. It seems like I feel like I've seen a few games where they've been losing in the fourth quarter and have come back and won or come back and at least made it close.
They came back against
San Antonio for sure.
They came back against Cleveland. They came back against Milwaukee.
And there's exactly games they should win that they were down and they were
came
like,
back
we're not
against
losing
Denver.
against these guys.
That Thursday TNT night game.
Right,
They
exactly.
Came back against Denver. I mean, this team is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So,
Can they win 60 games? You think they'll win 60?
I don't see how they
in the East.
Yeah.
In the East.
Yeah.
All those
see how they
bottom
don't.
feeding teams. I mean, they're 11-3 while giving up 100 points per game, which is 23rd in the league.
Yeah.
They can't rebound because they're playing that small ball lineup, and they're 11-3.
Yeah.
Like that's how good LeBron is.
And it's really a race for the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Nets to get to the 2 seed because
they're gonna beat each other
you
up.
want to be you want to put off playing Miami until as far as you can, 2 or 3 seed, I guess, because if you were 3, you'd still match up with them in the conference finals.
But you can't get a 3 if you
right
win
if
the
you're not,
division, right?
yeah, right. So you got to win the division.
So we'll move on to the last 2 teams I got here for best teams in the league. At 13 and 4, both Oklahoma City and San Antonio. What do you guys think? I mean,
Seems about right.
seems about right.
I think Oklahoma City is going to get a lot better as the year goes on. I think the Harden trade really put the impetus on Durant and Westbrook to take the next step in their game. Both because they had used Harden as like a fourth quarter facilitator in addition to him being a guy who hit the open shot when they got doubled. And Martin can do that role. Martin can hit the shots when they toss it to him. He's had a few really big nights. But now they have to. Both of those guys have to really like lead the offense. Make smarter plays. Westbrook, I think, has had a few really nice games in a row now. He's rebounding. He's passing well. And I think they're only gonna continue to figure it out. Like they're still so young, and they're still growing into a new role and playing with each other. I think they're gonna be a team that towards the end of the year just starts to absolutely roll teams and win like 13 games in a month sort of thing.
I agree.
And Serge is having a great season so far too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really coming into his own. They're allowing him to shoot more, and any shot that is not taken by Kevin Durant has to be a good shot.
Yeah.
And
Right.
You already lose a little bit of that with Russ, but when other players like Ibaka and Kevin Martin, who both have been taking great shots, they don't have poor shot selection. And this offense doesn't need any more help, and it's getting that help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And San Antonio, I think, is going to be like every year. They'll win 50
I think
games and position themselves for the playoffs.
as same as every year.
Yeah.
It's getting as old as they are.
Yeah.
Really. Like
Right.
I can't go into another season thinking
The
like
lineup,
I'm just gonna.
the lineup that they put out at crunch time against the Heat, it was like Patty Mills, Gary
Gary
Neal,
Splitter.
James Anderson, maybe for a little bit, Diao. I mean, that team battled.
Yeah.
And that's worth $250,000, but it worked.
Yeah.
Like they almost won that game.
Yeah.
So moving on from the best teams in the league, let's talk about what I think are the most surprising or disappointing teams. Just quickly touch on a lot of these guys. The Sixers are 10-6 without Andrew Bynum.
Yeah.
Perhaps future misdemeanor Andrew Bynum.
Yeah.
Did you guys all saw this yesterday?
Yeah, I sent that
He's
out.
getting you did send that out.
Yeah.
He's getting sued for
Brandishing firearms, driving too fast, blowing weed smoke at his neighbors. Come on, Drew. Shape up, dude.
I mean-
Get a haircut.
Yeah, he still remains my favorite in many ways. I mean, at 10-6, this
I'm
is
really surprised. Drew Holiday, it seems like, has found a new gear.
I want to know why none of us really thought this would happen with Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Because he's 22 years old, and we all said that he had hit his ceiling.
Yeah, he's in his 4th year now. Well, certain guys, I mean, it's like Gallinari is 24. He's been in the league 6 years.
Right.
Certain guys just sort of plateau and don't get any better, and other guys power through and add dimensions to their game and come back a lot better than they are. It's hard. I think it's a hard thing to.
Well, Bynum
figure out.
not being there has actually helped Drew become more, option number one on offense. I mean,
Right.
it's like you were going to run the offense through, one of the best bigs in the league in the post. All of a sudden, he's gone. You have to just become
Lou
more
Williams
of
is
a driving
gone.
kick offense. I mean, his handle is incredible. Drew Holiday, like he can take anybody off the dribble.
You think he's got a better handle than Kyrie? That would be a good. I feel like Kyrie is the
don't know.
crown
That's
for
tough. I
best
mean-
handle in the league
I
right now.
mean, to dress up in old man clothes and still take people off the
Yeah,
dribble.
that's true.
I don't know if Drew could do that, but
And Evan Turner is such a weird player. I don't know what to make of that guy.
he might not be a weird player. He might just be a bad player.
But he's like the.
He had
he's-
22 and 10 last night.
Yeah, he's undoubtedly the best
okay, but-
rebounding guard. He scores like some nights he'll have in the 20s. Other nights he won't score at all and take any shots. And just watching him, he seems very inconsistent and
Can't hit a jump shot.
yeah.
He just can't hit a jump shot.
He's still. I mean,
consistently.
it's his 3rd year, and he's 22 years old or something like that. I mean, yeah, it's his 3rd year. He's
He's more than 22. He's older than that.
he's 20. Oh wow, he's
in Ohio
24.
State for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's shooting 45% from the field. He's averaging 14, 7, and 4. It's pretty good numbers.
And they're 10
I
and
take
6.
That. Yeah,
He's
yeah,
probably
they're
their
10 and
second
6,
best
so he's
player.
doing something right. I mean,
I'm really surprised about that because they lost Lou Williams, they lost Iguodala, and they've essentially replaced those guys as currently constructed with Kwame and Spencer Hawes was re-signed, and then
Jay Rich.
Nick Young and Jay Rich and Darrell Wright, I think. Those guys plus Holiday's emergence and Turner getting a little bit better, and they're somehow 10 and 6. I mean, that's a really Doug Collins has done a great job with that team, and nobody really talks about it, but.
Evan Turner is their second leading rebounder next to Thaddeus Young, who's averaging 8 boards a game.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is really oddly put together, and it's very, very obvious looking at this roster that they're missing a center.
Yeah, but think about let's say that team gets Drew back in March, works his way into shape in March and April, and they're a first round or second round matchup for the Heat.
That's tough.
That's going to be a hard matchup for the Heat.
Not a lot of points in this game.
I'm just like,
No.
I don't think.
the good thing for the Sixers is that they have athletes from 1 to 4.
Yeah,
And you put Thaddeus at 4. I mean, they're just athleticism is through the roof, and
Yeah.
they're a team that actually matches up well with Miami's small ball offense. If they were to get Miami, I'd be so happy.
yeah, that would be really interesting. Would be a good series.
So let's lump these next two teams together. Golden State. The Golden State Warriors are without Andrew Bogut, the microfracture surgered Andrew Bogut. They're 9-6, and Charlotte, the worst team in worst winning percentage in NBA history, already have as many wins right now, 15 games in the season, as they had all of last season in 66
Bobbies.
games. Bobcats are 7-8.
Love me some
What do
Bobcats.
you guys think of these two teams? I mean, which one do you think is more the outlier?
Cat hoops. Probably the Bobcats.
I think they've won a lot of close games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, their point differential is pretty bad. I mean, they won 7 games last year.
Right,
If they won 30 games, that would be a 23-game improvement. So, and that would be losing 50 games. So I think they're, but I don't know. I
Well,
mean,
it was just weird that the way they were constructed last year because Kemba really didn't have an opportunity to really lead this team, and he's not your prototypical, star or option one on offense. But I mean, he's done a great job with this team. He's giving him the rock and playing him 30, 35 minutes a game. I mean, this team's not good, but
No.
they're
the
not
pieces are
terrible.
there though for a core with Kemba and Kid Gilchrist and is that guy's name Jeffrey Taylor? They have another rookie
Jeffrey
who's
Taylor.
pretty good.
That's right.
Bismack Biyombo, I think, is not very good. Byron Mullins is probably just a product of being able to get a bunch of shots.
They're not nearly as good as their record would indicate. Their expected win-loss, actually, I think, through whatever, like Pythagorean theorem, whatever they do in Basketball Reference, is actually 5 and 10.
Yeah.
They
But that's a
won't-
sign of, I think, them playing super hard. They
Right.
show up to compete every night. They hustle for loose balls. They dive in the floor. Like, I think you have those Pythagorean theorem things always kind of piss me off because I think it de-emphasizes the fact that some teams do like make the extra hustle plays and do have are able to come through more often than not in certain situations,
There
in
are
high
no
leverage situations.
nihilistic basketball robots on the team.
Yeah, I mean,
shout to
it's
CP.
like, yeah.
Well, they do make the hustle plays and they're playing hard, and usually that's what happens when you bring in a college coach. It's like he kind of just
Well, they're
preaches
essentially a
and stuff.
college team. So
They are,
they're
they are a
college
college team.
I love Kemba though. I think he's in a
They're
bit of a
7 and 8.
star.
6 of their wins have been by 4 points or less, and that's not gonna continue.
But
They're-
what if Kemba emerges as like a really good end of game guy?
I mean, yeah, he could be a good end of game guy, but I don't think they're that great on defense.
That could just be a sign of.
They're actually
that.
better off losing because it seems to me that they need another kind of blue chip.
Yeah, I
Blue
love
chip
Kid
scorer.
Gilchrist and Kemba. I just
They need a
those
big.
two guys
they
are
really
both.
they need a big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biyombo is not the guy. Neither is Mullins. But Kid
What?
Gilchrist.
What was that?
What?
Mullins is not
No, I
the
mean
guy?
he's not going to be the third.
I mean, he'll be
banana.
a fantasy stud and he'll take the wheelchair pimps to the title.
I'll be happy. I'm very happy with my man Byron Mullins right now, chucking the threes. He takes like some games. He takes like 10 threes. It's laughable. But
Guy's averaging 5 threes a game,
yeah,
and he's only shooting them at a 28% clip.
he doesn't hit most of them, but he's got the green light. So God bless him.
God bless him.
But I think between Kid Gilchrist last year, everyone said the guy's a hoops junkie. He was like the driving force behind that Kentucky team. Had them playing basketball at 6 a.m, pickup games. Came from a really dynamic high school team in New Jersey and was a winner in high school and AAU circuit and the high school circuit. Same thing with Kemba. Kemba won in college too. Kemba won in college and high school. I mean, Kemba won in high school too. Now you have both of those guys on the same team. I think long term, those two plus whoever else they get are going to they're going to mature into a really good team. I think.
They have cap room too, right? Like,
Yeah, big time.
they gotta do something.
Yeah.
Jordan's gotta step up his game, his
Yeah.
recruiting game. Like someone's gotta come to Charlotte and help.
They
got
got
to
to change the name.
Hornets.
Even the Hornets are just drop the Bobcats, man. Come on. Laughable. An ode to Bob Johnson.
The Bobbies.
Owner.
All right, so we're going to go talk. We're going to skip some of these other teams just because we're a little tight on time right now. We're going to talk about what happened the other week. If I may read a quote for you guys. The result here is dictated by the totality of facts in this case. The Spurs decided to make 4 of their top players unavailable for an early season game that was the team's only regular season visit to Miami. The team also did this without informing the Heat, the media, or the league office in a timely way. Under these circumstances, I've concluded that the Spurs did a disservice to the league and our fans. Apparently, that this was contrary to the best interests of the NBA. That is the rule that the Spurs violated, and that quote was from David Stern. So what do you guys think? What are your thoughts here? I mean, everybody's kind of given their 2 cents, but I suppose that's why people listen to the Podbino. That they
Podbino.
want
Bino.
Those
they want
dozens
some
of followers.
yeah, those dozens of followers. Our 110 Twitter followers now. Get educated.
Wow.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it, guys. What are you thinking right now?
I think the obvious thing that sucks is, that group of guys really almost beat the defending champions in
Right.
Miami. And
And it was an entertaining game.
to
I mean, the
still
fans
go
got their
through-
money worth.
To still go through on a fine like that, it just, I mean, first of all, it looks bad. And just, I don't think he cares, though. I mean, he's done so many things over the past couple years, and it's like almost like a child with his toy that's like someone's not playing with his toy the right way. And he's like, no, you can't do that. I'm going to fine you $250,000.
Find the team, not Pop. Pop didn't get fined, right? The team got
It was just
fined.
the team, yeah.
Yeah,
Spurs.
so I don't think Pop is going to even have to pay it. Yeah, I agree. It's ridiculous. Stern isn't going to retroactively fine any of the numerous teams that tank every year to get better draft picks. Golden State last year made a trade for Bogut, who they benched, and they had a top 7 protected pick, and they were right on the cusp of 7 and 8, and they benched all their good players for the last month or so.
Well, I mean,
Are
Stern's
the
worried about
fans
the
going to
product,
get
right?
their
He's
are the
worried about
fans going to
product.
get their money back there?
He's worried about the product, but like there's so many like good things that came out of that game because first of all, if you're a Spurs fan, right, and you want you want your best players to play so you can have best chance of winning the game, but your bench guys really showed you a lot there. I would be
Yeah.
very happy if I was a Spurs
And
fan.
a huge development for those guys. Garrett
Yeah,
Neal, Patty
great.
Mills, they're going to be playing with a lot more
They're
confidence.
saying that this was San Antonio's only visit to Miami. I mean, obviously,
I want to know how many
many Spurs
Miami fans,
fans?
you can count them on one hand, bought tickets because they wanted to go see Tim Duncan or Danny Green or Ginobili or Parker.
I mean, it's probably one hand.
I mean, the
and
people
also
don't
like,
even show up
you're
on
talking about,
time.
like, I think it's mainly if this was a Tuesday night game, not on national television, then he wouldn't have cared. But it's like this was like a national embarrassment for Stern, I suppose, and because it was on TNT. Now, if this was against the Bobcats and it was on Thursday on TNT, I don't know that he would carry. I don't think that this would happen.
If the Spurs were playing the Bobcats Thursday night on TNT, someone would have been.
Do you think
fired.
that?
Why are the Bobcats playing?
Do you
Thursday
think?
night
I
on
mean, do you
TNT?
think that this is a circumstantial thing because it was such a quote unquote big game, or do you think that he's trying to make a general? Is he using the big game as a general statement here?
I don't think Stern knows what he's doing, dude. he's lost his touch. I think he was sitting at home watching this.
He had to make the statement before the game saying that they're going to get substantial sanctions. If he just kept quiet and like waited till after the game, I mean,
It was an entertaining game, and the Spurs almost won. So
Yeah.
what more does a fan want to watch? I don't
I mean,
care
do-
if
that's a great product.
What's
Great
funny is
product
that
out on the floor.
for years, people have said the Spurs are boring. That Duncan and I mean, I like Ginobili and Parker, but the general like public perception of the Spurs has been they're a boring team. Their finals, they've won 4 finals. They're always among the lower rated finals. Now all of a sudden, people want to watch them. This is news to me. I mean, it's not like the Clippers played and it wasn't Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. I mean, the Spurs are sort of an interchangeable bunch. Obviously, their best players weren't playing, but the results show. I mean, these guys, every guy has a defined role, and if one guy isn't there, another guy steps up. They have good depth. It's ridiculous to me. It's within Popovich's discretion, and it's Stern trying to fit a penalty into the rules of giving the league notice. So if Popovich calls the league and says, I'm benching these guys, they're going to say, okay, fine. It just seems to me like...
Do you feel that maybe Stern is trying to get other teams not to do this?
Well, then I mean, what is the black and white rule? Like, when teams tank down the stretch, so long as you make a fake injury and notify the league, it's okay to tank?
That's a great point. It's a great point, 'cause, I
What
mean,
precedent are you setting? So
it's like a higher standard for better teams.
And you're just gaming, you're just incentivizing teams to game the system more. Like tanking is okay now, so long as we say they have tendonitis and call the league up and say our
Flu-like
starting 5 are
symptoms.
all out, right? With nausea.
Charles
And-
Jenkins is going to get 45 minutes tonight.
Right. I mean, I don't see how you can police this other than changing the way the lottery structure set up, playing less games. The Spurs didn't do this it's not like Popovich did this because he said, Stern, I want you to have a low-rated Thursday night TNT game. He does this every year strategically because he doesn't want, he feels it's in his best interest to not play some of his players on second night of back-to-backs and just sends them home. I mean, he's done this before. It's not like it caught the league off guard. It's not like Popovich wanted to show up the commissioner. I think he does this because he thinks it's in the best interest to win. The guy's won 4 rings. I mean, I
knows
think
what he's doing,
we
yeah.
should take
You should get the
take his
benefit of the
word
doubt.
for what works.
I
And
mean,
what
and I
doesn't
also
work.
think that no other team does this. Like it's just a fact. Like
Right.
Popovich has been doing this for years and years and years.
Right.
No other team does this. So it's not. I think it's kind of I think it's kind of a misstatement to say that this is like Stern trying to give signs to the other teams. The sign of
But other teams do tank.
Other teams do tank, but other
do.
teams don't rest championship contenders. Like don't rest their players unless it's the last few games of the season. Nobody does this in season anyway, so I don't know what kind of message he's sending to anybody else because nobody's doing this anyway. Like it seems frustrating me. It's not frustrating to me because like obviously you have to control your product and you have to control like for whatever way you can, you have to control how it's perceived, how it's marketed. And playing guys is how it's marketed. But at the same time, you bring up a really good point, Ms. Is that teams tank down the stretch. And teams played terribly on purpose, like blatantly terribly on purpose.
Tanking.
And they're never fined or anything like that. So that part I think is a bit disconcerting.
Yeah, it's just two-faced, hypocritical. It sets no good precedent. It's just a stupid. In any way you cut it, it just doesn't make any sense. Other than Stern being, grouchy and being like, "Oh, I'm pissed off tonight. I'm gonna fine the Spurs $250K for really no articulable."
There were
reason.
basketball reasons for that.
Yeah,
decision.
basketball reasons,
How
man.
dare you? How dare you? Don't
I
bring
think it's silly. I think the Spurs should, however they appeal the fine. And
I agree. So, gentlemen, I think that's it. Any closing notes? News notes here?
so it's December 1. Who do you think will have the best record on January 1?
In the league?
Yeah. The Grizz? Still the Grizz? The Heat?
I would have to say the Heat. I
Yeah.
think their schedule actually. I don't have it up in front of me, but I think the more games they play against those really bad East teams, just they're gonna run through them. And I mean, the Heat are gonna be there. That's the thing. It's like as excited as you can get about the Knicks. It's like, well, they can be as good as they want. It's like Miami Heat are going to the finals. They're so good. So
I think it's gonna be the Knicks.
you think the Knicks are going to finals? Did you
No.
just say that?
I don't think the Knicks are going
I
to
got my
finals.
hopes up.
No. Don't be crazy. But I really do think that the Knicks have a good chance of having the best record by January 1st.
By January 1, we got Miami on Thursday.
I do. I'd have to. This is kind of a. I'm not prepared for this question because I haven't looked at anybody's schedule. This is just gut feeling.
I think it'll be either Memphis or Miami. I think they're playing the best ball right now, and they got their teams healthy.
Agree.
Keep rolling through.
Good episode 3, gentlemen.
Episode 3 of the Podbino. And again, sorry to the listeners you couldn't get my fantasy sleepers. Otherwise, I'm sure you'd be
Otherwise, I'm sure you
right
would
now.
have picked B.J. Mullins and have won your fantasy league already.
B.J. Mullins. Remember, I drafted Derek Williams, and then I traded Derek Williams for a future draft pick.
For the rights to draft B.J.
For the rights
Mullins.
to draft B.J. Mullins. A trade that will be talked about for years to come.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Mambino out.
Thanks for listening.